New Zealand's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister, Winston Peters, is off to the Solomon Islands today and will meet with newly elected Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele for the second time. Mr. Peters will later travel with a high-level political delegation to Nauru on Wednesday and Niue on Thursday. Caleb Fotheringham, who is travelling with the group, joins me. Kia ora, Caleb. What will Mr. Peters try to achieve in his latest Pacific trip?
Kia ora sana. So Winston Peters, he's on his way to Solomon Islands today, and he's bringing a broad delegation with him. So that's Labour and the Greens on the opposition side, as well as people within his government. He then is on to Nauru on Wednesday and Niue Thursday, where he will meet with both of the nation's leaders. And what's interesting about the Solomon Islands trip, this is the second time Mr. Peters will meet newly elected Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele, which is pretty impressive considering he's only had the job since May. But Mr. Manele seems to be very popular at the moment. He's been seen by Australia's Foreign Minister Penny Wong, Washington's Papua New Guinea based ambassador, China's special envoy to the Pacific, and Japan's ambassador to the Pacific. They've all visited him, and of course some of this is just because he's Prime Minister, and when someone in the region becomes Prime Minister, all their friends want to see them. But keeping in mind Solomon Islands has been the centre of geopolitical competition since 2019, it's a little bit different, and talking to academics in this area, it's likely a large amount of these visitors are there they're also related to this geopolitical struggle, and they're saying if Manele is going to be different to Prime Minister Sogavare, who was very pro-China and at times even I was told had even anti-Western rhetoric. So they're saying if Manele is going to be different and if they can form a bit of a different relationship with him.
And what about Nauru and Niue?
In Nauru, Mr. Peters has bilateral meetings with President David Ariang and the Foreign Minister there. And in the background, there's quite a bit going on in Nauru. So there's almost 100 asylum seekers there at the moment. So this is off being to zero in June last year, and then people arriving again in September. So Australia is using that detention centre again. And the nation has also switched ties with Taiwan, switched ties from Taiwan for China. And this was immediately after Taiwan's presidential election in January. So it happened like that. And also happening is Baron Wanga started his tenure as the Secretary of General. Baron Wanga started his tenure as the new Secretary General of the Pacific Islands Forum. So there's a bit going on in Nauru, and that's all happening in the background, and Mr. Peters, I'm sure, is going to be asking questions about a few of those issues.
Can you explain what's happening in Niue?
Yeah, so in Niue, Mr. Peters is visiting off the back of Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, who announced a $20 million investment package in renewable energy, and that just happened last month. So Mr. Peters, he's going to be there, and he's going to lead a groundbreaking ceremony for the energy investment that New Zealand has announced. And Mr. Peters is also obviously going to have bilateral meetings with Premier Dalton Tangalangi when he is there too. And in the background, what's happening with Niue is they're celebrating 50 years of free association with New Zealand.
Just going back to Nauru, I understand that there's a visa for journalists, but how did you manage to waive that?
Yeah, so there's an $8,000 Australian visa fee application for journalists. So it's a huge amount. We wouldn't have been able to cover that. But thankfully, it has been waived. And I'm guessing that has something to do with being part of Winston Peters' delegation. But even with that being waived, you can see just on the media plan that Nauru doesn't really want media there. We're not as involved as in compared to the Solomon Islands and compared to Niue, where it seems like they're pretty happy for us to be everywhere. Nauru doesn't seem to have that. We're not included in every little bit of detail. We will, I believe, be able to fire some questions to the president, but that's going to be limited to 2 questions per journalist. So even that is quite restricted.